Good evening, I'm Farhana Sheikh. Here are the top stories for tonight. Trump expects expansion of Abraham Accords soon, and Trump and Putin to hold surprise summit over the Ukraine war. That and more coming up on AWANI International. U.S. President Donald Trump says he expects an expansion of the Abraham Accords soon, expressing hope that Saudi Arabia will join the pact that normalizes relations between Israel and several Arab states. Now, Trump says if Riyadh signs on, other nations in the region are likely to follow. Trump said he had some very good conversations as recently as Wednesday with states that have indicated their willingness to join the accords. He has long urged all Middle Eastern countries to establish formal ties with Israel. That's including Iran. During his first term in 2020, Trump brokered the Abraham Accords, which saw Israel normalize relations with the United Arab Emirates, UAE, Bahrain, and Morocco. But U.S. efforts to bring Saudi Arabia into the fold have so far failed. Now, Riyadh has maintained its stance, which links recognition of Israel to the creation of a Palestinian state. Analysts say a lasting ceasefire and peace deal in Gaza could help pave the way for broader regional talks.
The war itself.
In other news, U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin have agreed to hold another summit on the war in Ukraine after their first meeting in Alaska failed to make headway. The follow-up could take place in Budapest within 2 weeks. The surprise move comes just as U.S. signaled new weapon support for Kyiv.
Trump described a recent 2-hour phone call with Putin as productive, though the Russian leader warned that supplying long-range missiles to Ukraine could harm the peace process and damage U.S.-Russia relations. Trump, however, said he believes a peace deal is within reach, adding he has made deals all his life and hopes this one will be done soon. The announcement comes just ahead of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's visit to Washington on Friday, where he is expected to push for more weapons, including US-made Tomahawk missiles. Trump has been signaling new support for Kiev in recent days, but his warmer tone toward Putin raises questions about whether the military aid will actually be delivered. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban, who has close ties with Putin, confirmed he spoke with Trump and offered to host the summit.
Now, France and Britain, in coordination with the US, are working to finalize a UN Security Council resolution in the coming days that could pave the way for an international stabilization force in Gaza. The planning comes as a fragile US-mediated ceasefire between Israel and Hamas holds.
French Foreign Ministry spokesperson Pascal Confarou told reporters in Paris that a UN mandate is crucial. It would provide a legal foundation and make it easier for countries to contribute troops or resources. The proposal will also involve regional powers, including Egypt, Qatar, and Turkey. During the UN General Assembly last month, Indonesia has already offered to provide up to 20,000 troops, according to President Prabowo Subianto. Earlier this week, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer cautioned that such a stabilization force will take time to form. Talks in Paris on October 10th with European and Arab powers looked at how the mission could operate, including rules for the use of force.
That's our top news. Stay tuned for more after the break.
Di dalam setiap berita yang dibawa, konteks amat penting. Kami sentiasa membawakan yang tergempar dan terkini. Pastikan Astro AWANI menjadi pilihan anda, tidak kira di mana sahaja anda berada.
Welcome back. China is accusing the United States of undermining the global trading system since the new administration took office in 2025. Now, Beijing says Washington's use of tariffs, sanctions, and what it calls discriminatory trade policies violates commitments under the World Trade Organization. Now, China's allegation to the WTO claims the US has escalated what it describes as bullying behavior through unilateral measures and long arm jurisdiction, undermining market principles and fair competition. Beijing also accuses Washington of fueling a global trade war and ignoring WTO rulings, including by blocking the reappointment of judges to the organization's appeals body. China's Commerce Ministry says it is preparing a report assessing US compliance across 11 key areas. US President Donald Trump has issued a stern warning to Hamas, saying the group could face reprisals if killings continue inside Gaza. He posted a thread on Truth Social saying such violence would violate the ceasefire he helped broker with Israel. Trump later clarified he will not be sending U.S. troops into Gaza, but nearby forces could move in under American oversight without naming who those forces might be. There have been reports of deadly clashes between Hamas and armed groups. Aid workers said these armed gangs, sometimes anti Hamas groups backed by Israel, have stepped into the security vacuum, at times hijacking humanitarian aid and worsening Gaza's food crisis. Under Trump's ceasefire plan, Hamas must disarm and give up control of Gaza. He warned that if the group refuses, it will be forced to comply. Israel and Hamas, meanwhile, have traded blame over ceasefire violations, with Israel threatening to restrict humanitarian aid and delay reopening the Rafah crossing with Egypt. Venezuela has asked the UN Security Council to condemn recent American strikes off its coast, calling them illegal and a violation of its sovereignty. The move comes as tensions rise after US President Donald Trump ordered a military buildup in the Caribbean, saying the operations targeted drug trafficking networks. Venezuela's UN ambassador Samuel Moncada submitted a letter on Wednesday accusing the United States of killing at least 27 people in 5 strikes on civilian vessels in international waters. The letter called on the UN Security Council to investigate the attacks. Washington defended the strikes, saying they are consistent with Article 51 of the UN Charter, which allows countries to act in self-defense against armed threats. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro called the U.S. actions an open attack on peace and accused the CIA of carrying out operations against his government. The Security Council is expected to hold closed door discussions on the matter later this week, but no formal resolution is expected. Japan is set to hold a parliamentary vote on October 21st to select its next prime minister. The vote will decide whether Sanae Takaichi, the new leader of the ruling Liberal Democratic Party, will become the country's first female prime minister.
While the LDP had proposed a date, opposition parties initially objected to the schedule due to ongoing coalition talks. The party has approached the right-leaning opposition, the Japan Innovation Party, in a bid to secure a majority and expand its coalition. Markets have responded positively. The Nikkei share average has risen as investors bet on a revival in big spending and looser monetary policy under Takaichi. If she passes the vote, Takaichi will face a busy diplomatic schedule later this month, including the ASEAN summit in Malaysia, the APEC summit in South Korea, and a visit from US President Donald Trump to Japan.
Prosecutors in Bangladesh are seeking the death penalty for former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina over a deadly crackdown on student-led protests last year. Chief Prosecutor Tajul Islam says the ex-leader deserves 1,400 death sentences, one for each person killed during the weeks of unrest that led to her ouster.
Hasina, who fled to India, is on trial for crimes against humanity. A leaked audio clip allegedly captured her ordering security forces to use lethal weapons against protesters. She has denied all charges. The protests began in July 2024 over civil service job quotas for relatives of veterans from the 1971 War of Independence, but escalated into a movement to overthrow Hasina. It marked the worst violence in Bangladesh since the war and ended Hasina's 15-year rule. The next general elections are scheduled for February, with Hasina's rival party, the BNP, seen as the frontrunner.
The U.S. Chamber of Commerce has filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration's new $100,000 fee on visas for skilled foreign workers. President Donald Trump signed an executive order last month introducing the fee, saying the visa program had been abused.
The chamber argued that the move would make it cost prohibitive for employers to hire skilled foreign workers. In response, the White House said the fee was lawful and an incremental step towards necessary reforms. U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick previously defended the order, saying all of the big companies were in support of the policy. The new fee applies only to fresh visa applications, with entry restricted unless the payment is made. Trump also announced a new gold card scheme to fast-track visas for certain immigrants, starting at fees of $1 million. The decision has drawn criticism from tech leaders, including Tesla CEO and former Trump ally Elon Musk, who say the H-1B program helps the U.S. attract top talent from around the world. Other critics also argue that it undercuts the American workforce as it is used heavily by the U.S. tech sector, with most H-1B holders come from India and China.
This week on Wu Says, we look at U.S. President Donald Trump's upcoming attendance at the ASEAN summit in Kuala Lumpur, fresh off his role in brokering a ceasefire and hostage return in Gaza. Among his conditions for attending is to preside over the signing of a peace deal between Cambodia and Thailand. Professor Emeritus Dr. Wu Wing Tai breaks the high-stakes politics behind his move.
The Thai-Cambodian peace deal has most of the credit goes to our Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim than to Donald Trump.
Yep.
But as you can see, if this is a condition for Trump to come, and his coming is of possibly high benefit to ASEAN, Malaysia is surrendering up that credit to Donald Trump. But to the extent that it makes Malaysia work harder to seal the peace deal between Cambodia and Thailand, you could say that's another kudos for Donald Trump.
Right.
What you told me really amazes me at the length that Donald Trump is willing to go in order to make a run for the Nobel Prize. And well, if someone is running for the Nobel Peace Prize and actually being able to bring stop to the conflict, one is certainly eligible for it. But in order to get it, you have to be seen as having achieved a durable peace, not just merely a ceasefire. What has happened in Gaza is still too early to tell whether the peace would endure. Because the Israeli cabinet, for example, certainly sounds like it is not very happy with the deal. And so now that they have their hostages back, that less positive things could happen.
Catch the full conversation on AWANI International and across our social media platforms.
That wraps up AWANI International. Stay with us as we track the rivalry strategies and power shifts shaping the new global order. For more updates, visit international.astroawani.com and follow us on our social media. I'm Farhana Sheikh. Thank you for watching and good night.